All right, guys, here's a quick update. So it's Cura. We had a look at quite a few settings so far. Just a few reminders then. This is going to print one of the ailerons. Um, so I've oriented it so it's along the x-axis, or yeah, y-axis actually. So it's going to print that way. And have a quick look at the profile settings. What do I want? I want some top layers. I want some bottom layers. I've gone 5 for the bottom layers because that adheres nicely to the control horn. Top layers of 2 because it's going to dovetail into the next section of the aileron because there's two-part aileron. Slice and tolerance is middle. I won't use adaptive layers because it's not using any complex curves. Um, More on that later. Um, but I think I've already talked about it a little bit. I won't go for a brim because it's got it's going to have some solid layers at the bottom. It's got solid layers here, so effectively it doesn't need a brim. I did talk about priming earlier on with a prime head, but the Cura has this nice feature, which is kind of built in. It's hidden behind the preferences, and it's under the printer settings, machine settings, and you scroll down the bottom here, click in this field, and these bits down the bottom here, I'll make it available in the chat window, but what these do is they create two lines of filament down the left hand side of the bed, and that precludes the need to do a prime, right? Because you don't need a skirt, you don't need a brim, but you do need to prime the head prior to printing. So what these few lines here go and do is in fact you can probably see because it's got a comment field in here, look, it says draw the first line, then move little to one side, and then draw the second line. So effectively, these G codes that you can see here, so this little G code, G1, M10, whatever it is, 10.4, X20, Z28, F1500, I think that's to do with flow rate actually. What this does, I'll have to go and look up these settings to really fully understand them. But what it does effectively is draws two lines drawing the left-hand side, and then moves resets the extruder and moves the head into position for getting ready to print. So I copied these out of the old version of the Cura slicer because they're not in the new version for some reason prints them in a slightly different position. So I had to go and copy and paste them into there. So that's good to go. I've sliced it, just twizzle it around a little bit. Yeah, okay, so we can see, yeah, it's got a nice flat end. I'm going to put a top surface on here. Top surface also affects this surface of this bit here as well. I think I talked about earlier. And there's a nice bonding area there for super glue rather than it being hollow here. Having to glue around the edges, it makes sense just a nice little super glue across the top with 2 layers should be adequate, not too thick, not too thin. And that will also create a nice box section to it, so it becomes quite rigid. Sometimes you want a nice rigid section, so overall, yeah, that should be good to go. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Do a quick preview on it, make sure that the bottom layers are thick enough around the control horn, and then send that to Octoprint. Brings your monitor up. We'll heat up the bed first. We always recommend you heat your bed first because that will stabilize the temperature at 60 Celsius. And once the head's heated up, the bed's heated up, it'll heat up the head. And that will get up to 230. So 60 for the bed and 230 for the head, or for the extruder as they call it. And by the time that gets up to full 230, this will be nicely stabilized. The stainless steel plate will have gained sufficient heated volume, if you like, or mass. It'll be nicely stabilized throughout the bed. What you tend to find is the bed tends to heat up unevenly, depending on whether the heater elements, working properly. Plus, you're coming through a magnetic layer, so there's a slight delay before it gets into the bed. So it's always good to heat the bed first, followed by the head. You can manually control these settings by see the bed's coming up to 60, it's currently 45, 46-ish. You can manually set these by setting them here or using the plus. So it is possible to manually derive these if you want. You can also set offsets based upon the G codes. You can actually bump up, bump down, etc. Yeah, so that is ready to go. I say I use Octopi and Octoprint because I don't need to then drag and drop files directly into here or upload them or have an SD card. Just don't muck around. Just get yourself a Raspberry Pi. As I put in the previous live stream, get Octopi, get Octoprint working, get it all working over your Wi-Fi, get it plugged into your printer, and you'll just save yourself so much hassle. So yeah, that's good to go. So I'm going to stop there and I'll record the next one. And I'll photograph some of these pieces so you can see how good they come out. Catch you later, guys.